Hi, everyone. My name is Olivia Brady, and I'm the Youth Engagement Coordinator at the New York City Campaign Finance Board. I'm so happy to be joining Represent NYC today to talk about young New Yorkers and civic participation. Talking about the youth vote is almost an obsession for a lot of folks. Every election year, the media is always trying to predict whether young voters will turn out or if they could sway an election one way or another. But despite this, youth voices are often excluded from this discussion about civic participation, and a lot of times their needs and concerns are not centered by our elected officials. At the CFB, we've held an annual hearing exclusively devoted to allowing young New Yorkers to talk about voting and civic participation. This We the Young People hearing was held last month, and I'm super excited to be talking with some of our ambassadors who actually helped plan and execute the event, as well as with the Teen Civic Engagement Intern at the NYPL. So first we have our two ambassadors. Nikita Chernin is a 15-year-old sophomore from Staten Island. He loves theater and has participated in all aspects of productions from writing to acting to stage management. We also have Ryan Barrie, who is a senior from Brooklyn. He is 17 years old and volunteers with the YMCA and the Haitian American Caucus. As youth ambassadors with NYC Votes, Nikita and Ryan work to educate their peers and community members about upcoming elections and local government. They lead Get Out the Vote events, post on social media to increase awareness, and work to plan and execute events like the We the Young People hearing. We're also fortunate to be joined by Kaelin Motoasele, who is the youth civics intern for the Stavros Niarchos Foundation Library. Kaelin is helping the library reach young people throughout the city just by increasing youth civic engagement programming at the libraries. So welcome to you all, and thank you so much for taking time away from school and your busy schedules to be here. Let's jump right into the conversation. Nikita, we can start with you. So just tell me, why is civic engagement important to you?
Well, civic engagement is really important because what people don't realize is it kind of shapes the community you want to live in. You have the power by being engaged to make the world whatever you want it to be. You want to increase like spending on education or something like that. You have the power to shape it through your voice and your actions, through you voting and through you engaging with other political figures.
Thank you so much, Nikita. Ryan, do you want to share what civic or why civic engagement is so important to you?
Most definitely. I think that as I think of civic engagement, I think of much more of contribution. So I think of much more of developing or beginning to or expanding upon your interest as regards to community development or just development overall. I think that whether it be volunteering or voting, I think all actions contribute to the overall sake of either your community, your city, or your state, and even the entire world itself. I think that through civic engagement, you're definitely able to share your opinions and your perspectives towards different topics and different atmospheres as well.
Thank you so much. And Kaelin, I'd love to hear from you as well.
I think civic engagement is very important because every voice matters. And the more people are engaged, the more we have an accurate representation of what we want or we need as a society. The best you can do is to speak up and share what you want to see in your community.
Amazing. Thank you so much for those answers. So at our We the Young People hearing, we heard from many young people about their voting experiences and recommendations to improve our elections. I'll pose this to Nikita and Ryan. In your opinion, what were the biggest takeaways from that hearing and what stood out the most to you?
Personally, something that stood out to me the most was definitely the diversity and opinions and perspectives. I think that whether it be from conversations about urban planning to research the specialized high school admissions, and even going as far as to say that there's different developments that are made for green spaces. I think overall the conversation that we had was definitely impactful as regards to sharing new thoughts and ideas that aren't shown on the ballot itself, but are shown between different policies that are often passed after someone's elected, and even just going past to really discover the meaning behind city council and different forms of offices through ballot measures, as well as just things that impact the communities the most, either be on a higher level or a local level.
I think one of the biggest takeaways was just how much support there was for like students and youth to come and like talk and there was a whole entire space for them to come and share their ideas. And I think it's really important. And you don't get to see that a lot, where here's a dedicated space for youth to come out and talk. And there were so many people that were supportive and helping out with the event. And I think that that was really just like the amount of people that that like worked on this event and helped uplift youth voices was really, really like interesting to see, and was very impactful as well.
It was, a pleasure working with you all to plan that event. And Kaelin, as sort of a follow-up question, one of the key sort of goals for the We the Young People hearing was really to create a space where elected officials and their staff had to really sit down and listen to youth concerns. I'm just curious, in your own opinion, what do you think are some ways that our local government can really uplift and center youth voices in better ways?
I think that the best way to uplift and center youth voices would be to give them more forums and more places to speak about the things that they find important, and also making sure that outreach, because outreach is very important, and sometimes a lot of teens don't know about such programs that are available to them or opportunities. They don't know about the opportunities that are there to really talk about the things that they find important. So definitely outreach. And also social media can be very helpful in the sense that a lot of teens are on social media, be it Instagram or Twitter. So being able to post there, maybe if you have an event, making sure that that event is available online for people to see, that could definitely help.
And now that kind of leads me into the next phase of this, right? So trying to get your peers interested in civic engagement is tough work. I'd love to hear about what are some of the attitudes that you're encountering when you're talking to young people about voting and participating in government. And then second, right, what are the strategies that you have for talking to even your most disengaged peers about the importance of participating in local government?
Personally, I get a lot of dismissiveness and also hesitancy from the teens I work with, because when it comes to things like politics, it's easy to feel like this climate isn't for them. A lot of young people have had their thoughts or opinions pushed to the back or completely ignored, which feeds into the narrative that politics are not for their age group. So I oftentimes stress again and again that every voice matters, and that if they want to see something get done, they can't rely on others to do right by them. They have to make a conscious effort to be the change they want to see. And that would start in their own community, be it online, be it their school, their actual borough. They have to start somewhere.
As it refers to my personal experiences, I think that as I was speaking to other teens, even some family members who are over the age of like 20, something that I often see is that they don't care about us. They don't care about our opinions in regards to elected officials. So they refuse to vote based on the fact that they believe that those who are in power don't really care or want to fulfill what they hope they will fulfill per se. I think that as a result of that, I often ask the question, what departments impact you? For example, whether it be schools, so the DOE. So I often ask, how do the current candidates who are currently up for office impact you in that way? Whether it be by funding for DOE or cleanups for the Department of Sanitation. I often just ask them much more about how those departments impact them. Then most I go after to ask them about how the current people who are up for office impact those departments. So whether it be someone wants to pass a bill that increases funding for DOE schools, I often just ask them to see and to inform them about the new, I would say not any candidates, but much more the new voting process itself, and how their voices can still be heard, even if they once feel as if they were disengaged. And most importantly, how to continue to grow through civic engagement, as well as active voting, as well as checking with your councilwoman or councilman about different bills that are up for debate, etc.
I think definitely in terms of like some of the attitudes, not everyone is super interested in just engaging with like government, and especially on like the local level. Many people think it's not that impactful, and there's a lot of people that just don't want to do anything because they feel like it's a lot of work for them to even just like research who's running and all of that, because it does take some effort and some time to learn about it and make informed decisions. But I think the best way to approach them, approach youth especially, is through social media. And we have this powerful tool with the internet where we can reach almost anyone instantly. And I think that trying to engage the youth in places that we are actively on, Instagram, TikTok, and just other social media platforms, is definitely key. And we've definitely seen that being done, and we've reached a lot more youth voters through going through places like social media.
I'm really curious, since you've been doing this work, how have you changed or how have your views changed?
I would say personally, I became much more open-minded in regards to not only the voting process itself, but how things work. I think that as a result, I've been really much interested in much more of the history of voting, as well as how it's up to today, as well as how to really use tools that we have as young people to best of our advantage, whether it be social media, whether it be online learning, and having the ability to have Zooms during class time through your teacher's request through your teacher rather, and just really just being able to utilize all that we have to achieve all we must in regards to what we have, and most importantly, just being able to learn more through active engagement. I think that's something that's really has been changing me, and has allowed me to really have a bigger grasp of different topics that I practice today, and even those that you may not see coming, but most importantly, have been able to notice from now.
I think something that I learned is that kind of before I started doing this, you always think that when you are interested in government, you always think, why aren't more people engaged? Isn't it just so easy to like walk up to the polls on election day and vote? But there's a lot of like smaller things that people don't realize, like little smaller obstacles, like registering to vote and you having to kind of research the candidates. There's a lot of smaller kind of things that people don't necessarily realize goes into this. And I think that's like really interesting to kind of see that it's not as simple as just kind of showing up and voting, even though we would all want it to be that simple. There's a lot of other smaller things that go on behind the scenes. And I think that's really interesting, because you always think, especially not being able to vote, you always think that it should be so simple. You should just walk up and be able to vote. And you don't realize all these other things that go into it.
Working in civics has definitely changed how I approach problem solving, because I couldn't tell you all the times I sat at home lamenting over all the things I wished could be different or wanted to see happen, but realized that I would have to do something about it. And before all of that, it never even occurred to me that I could really do anything, because the civic world sort of felt like a different dimension or a place where I couldn't really fit in. And another thing that has definitely changed with me working in civics is definitely patience, because I've learned that even if you have the right ideas, even if you take the time, you write letters and you're there, sometimes you have to wait. You have to stay presently active almost all the time. Make sure that you are there, in the sense that it doesn't always go exactly how you want it to or you need it to, but you need to be prepared.
So my next question is really, I would just love to hear about a specific time in your life doing this work when you felt like you really made an impact.
A really interesting time that I think I personally made an impact was during when we did text banks. You get to text to individuals one-on-one, and we were doing a youth text bank, and don't remember the name off the top of my head, but there was this person that responded being like, I don't know anything about like how to like vote or like what I should do, but I really, really want to kind of participate, and I want to try to kind of like be part of this, and like I want to research the candidates. I want to go up and vote. And I think that just the fact that it might have not been the fact that we reached out to them, but definitely the conversation that we had, even through just texting, was very impactful. And I'm not sure where this person is or if they've done it, but I really hope that they went on and voted and did all the stuff that they talked about that they wanted to do and were looking forward to doing.
I would say personally would have to be the first voice drive I was able to host. I think that from that I was definitely really able to speak to young people who are who was supposed to vote in the last election. I'm not sure if he did or not, but yeah, I think that overall that last footage drive was definitely something that I personally viewed to be impactful, because being able to introduce some people to first for city council itself, as well as what makes city council, the roles of city council. I think it was definitely something that that personally lasted with me for a very long time, because not many students did have much of a understanding of it. So being able to first share the impacts of the city council as well as the roles itself was definitely something that first taught to me personally, and being able to have the opportunity with them to do so was definitely something that came with a lot of smiles at the end of the day.
For me, it was definitely my first introduction to politics, that being the participatory budgeting cycle in 2018. I'm pretty sure that was cycle 7 for Lori Cumbo in District 35. My previous middle school they applied for some of the grant money. And what I ended up doing was going around through the neighborhood by my school, trying to make sure people knew about participatory budgeting, which many people didn't. And I got to really engage not only my classmates, but also community members about what participatory budgeting was, since it was so novel in the first place. And in the end, we ended up winning that money for technological upgrades for my school. And that overwhelming feeling of pride at the end of the day was definitely what kept me hooked.
Such a pleasure to hear those wonderful stories from you all. We have just a few minutes left, and so I would just like to end on, asking you all, what are your plans for the future? Do you see yourselves working in public service?
I'm not 100% sure with what I want to be doing, but I think that I definitely want to continue doing work like this, especially engaging with people and with something I really like, such as like local government and government in general. I think that this is definitely a career path and something that I would continue to love to explore even further.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think definitely personally, I'm not too sure in the exact scope of public service, but I think that somewhere on the lines of just either starting a B Corp or a nonprofit to help with different community issues, whether it be financial literacy or even voting itself, as well as voter education. I think that bridging a gap between the issues and the solutions would definitely something that I'm interested in. So I do see myself in that field in the future.
In terms of future, I definitely do see myself in a public service role, though I'm not sure if it will be in politics, but definitely I will continue to have an active role, even if it doesn't become my ultimate career, because I think that it's very important to definitely reach out to the youth and make sure that they are educated in the sense that they know what they can do and what their voice can do.
Again, thank you for that. And again, I'd also love to hear what's something that has been keeping you hopeful, over the last year to few months. What keeps you hopeful and really driven to do this work?
I would say personally, being able to go on social media or even just having conversations in classrooms and hearing that students are much more willing to have conversations about issues that impact us today, as well as trying to devise solutions, has definitely kept me hopeful. Whether it be by just speaking about digital privacy and having conversations about that for hours even. I think that being able to speak about different topics and really elaborate on our ideas and our feelings definitely gives me a lot of hope. And even the hearing, being able to speak about different topics that many of us may have never even heard about, and to properly articulate our feelings towards it, definitely gives me hope in our not only the future but in the present as well.
I think what definitely gives me hope is the fact that we can start coming together and doing more in-person events, because as interesting as it is to reach people online, I think it's always better to see someone face to face and talk to them about all the wonderful things that they can be doing to support their community through civic engagement. So I'm really looking forward to starting to see more in-person events open up, and I'm looking forward to seeing other people in person just talk about this kind of stuff, because I think it's really interesting.
Something that definitely gives me hope for the future is the kinds of things my peers are currently talking about, because it feels like it wasn't too long ago where we weren't having conversations like this, where we were really talking about our government and what that means for us and really thinking about what we could do. And now that we're definitely having these conversations, I feel as though I have hope for what we could do soon. And I think that we're definitely on the right track.
Thank you for that, those powerful words to sort of leave us on, Kaelin. If there's one thing I think that we can all take away from today, it's just that, it's never too late to get involved. And there's so many programs that are offered by our office, by even the library system, and so many other elected officials for young people to get involved in. And so, with that said, I really want to thank each of you for your contributions to this conversation today. For those who are interested in, taking that first step to get involved, NYC Votes is hosting some youth-led text banks, one on September 25th and one on October 21st. It's a great way to earn service hours and really, do some effective get out the vote outreach and make sure that all New Yorkers are able to participate in this historic election cycle. If you have any questions about how to vote, how to register to vote, where your polling location is, you can visit our nonpartisan website. It's voting.nyc. It's available in several languages, and we have all of the resources you need to get involved this year. Lastly, you can follow all of our work on social media at NYC Votes, and you can also follow NYPL on social media as well. I hope everyone has a great evening, and thank you so much for listening.